Now, Sam Harris has just recently written a piece, and actually I'm not sure where it is. Melinda probably knows the location. She'll tweet on it. But the piece was titled, I have a copy of it here in front of me, and sorry about not having the bib source handy, but the title of it is 9/11 Demands Intellectual Honesty. There's a very significant title, I think, because I agree with Sam Harris. 9/11 demands intellectual honesty. Now, of course, to Sam Harris, intellectual honesty means seeing the depravity of religion and the stupidity of religious beliefs and what it brings, and not just the stupidity of religion, because many Christians or religious folk will point to the evil of other regimes, of secularist regimes, and this is dismissed by Sam Harris in the article. He says, whatever else might be wrong with the world, it remains a fact that some of the most terrifying instances of human conflict and stupidity would be unthinkable without religion. Now, I think that's a massive overstatement, but we'll let it stand for the moment. I think it's an overstatement by comparison to secular ideologies, but then he adds this in defense, as if anticipating the objection. He says, and the other ideologies that inspire people to behave like monsters, Stalinism, fascism, etc., are dangerous precisely because they so resemble religions, which I think is a clever rhetorical move on his part, because now what he's trying to do is he wants to group the secular acts of atrocity along with the religious acts of atrocity and say that that's just the same as religion, when in fact the people like Mao and Lenin and Stalin and the rest believed in terms of their worldview, not like the religious people, but like Sam Harris. And this is why I think his title, 9/11 Demands Intellectual Honesty, is so significant, because the point is that we have to look at what 9/11, what happened at 9/11, and then we have to assess it honestly, intellectually honestly, in light of the worldview that we have. Now, what happened at 9/11 makes perfect sense in light of a Christian worldview. We can explain the problem of evil. We can make sense of that. This is what false religion does. This is what human beings are capable of doing. It doesn't answer the problem of evil, the Bible. It predicts it. It is completely, it has, the worldview in the Bible has explanatory power. There is an intellectual consistency between the worldview of Christianity and what happened on 9/11. We can equally condemn the error, not only of the Islamists, but of any other religious point of view that does the same kind of thing. And it fits. There's a place for it to make sense in our worldview. But when you reject the notion of God, and you're a materialist, which means nothing exists but matter in motion. In the beginning was the particles. Well, if that's what you have, what is the logical conclusion? The logical conclusion is not that you have to be a murderer and a killer and a genocidal maniac. Because you could be just as, and I'm going to put quotes around this word now, good as any other religious person if you want to. Because that would be consistent with your view. Actions like that would be consistent with the materialistic worldview. But actions like those perpetrated at 9/11 are equally consistent with the materialistic worldview. What the Japanese did at the beginning of the war, the rape of Nanking, are equally consistent with the materialistic worldview. What Stalin and Lenin and Mao did were equally consistent with the materialistic worldview. There is no God. There is no objective that is transcendent morality to which we are beholden. We can make up the rules that suit our needs and follow them, and that is completely consistent with the materialistic view, because there is nobody standing over the whole system telling us what we ought and ought not do. Yes, 9/11 demands intellectual honesty. Sam Harris starts out talking about how he answers his daughter about questions she has about the world. And I imagine then a couple of dialogues that he might have with her in light of what happened at 9/11. He could tell his daughter religious people killed a bunch of people today in America, and what they did was wrong. And then his daughter might ask, well, Papa, what do you mean? Daddy, what do you mean when you say they were wrong? And Sam Harris would have to say, in light of his worldview, maybe this: what I mean by wrong is that we have a standard we think will allow us to live the best together, human flourishing, so we've agreed to call violating that standard wrong. However, those who flew the planes into the towers, they have a different standard they think will help them live best together and accomplish human flourishing according to their view, and according to that standard, their actions were good. So according to our standards, they were wrong, but according to their standards, they were right. And his daughter says, but Daddy, then they were both right and wrong, simply depending on which side you're looking from. End of discussion. That would be intellectual honesty. Or maybe he might say religious people killed a bunch of people today in America, and what they did was wrong. And she says, Daddy, what do you mean when you say they're wrong? He says, what I mean is that they are going against feelings that we have about those things, feelings that were created by genetic mutation and natural selection in the process of Darwinian evolution. They violated our feelings that comes from our genes. They violated our evolutionary sense of right and wrong. However, since morality and behaviors are determined by evolution, then their evolutionary morality must be different from our evolutionary morality. So, Daddy, you're saying that according to our evolution, they did wrong, but according to their evolution, they did right. End of discussion. That's intellectual honesty. Or you might say religious people killed a bunch of folks today in America, and what they did was wrong, and what this means is that the human race, not just our group, but the human race has evolved to believe these things are wrong. And those people, and many like them, have disobeyed their evolution. But his daughter might say, well, Papa, what's wrong with disobeying your evolution? How could disobeying evolution be wrong? End of discussion. But it's actually worse than that from Sam Harris, who wants to be intellectually honest. And it isn't that there aren't questions or issues that he raises in his article of that title that don't need answering. I think they do. I don't have time to answer all of it. Just addressing the question of intellectual honesty and the burden it places on somebody like materialist Sam Harris, because Sam Harris doesn't just believe in evolution. He also believes, consistently, I would say, as a materialist, in determinism. He does not believe in any free will. Because, and this is intellectual honesty, free will cannot happen in a materialistic system. There's no room for it, friends. We are all just a series of sophisticated dominoes falling. We're just doing what we did because some domino hit us and we hit some other domino, and on it goes without any choice. So I guess from that perspective, Sam Harris could say religious people killed a bunch of folks today in America on 9/11, and what they did was wrong. And what that means, in other words, when I say what they did was wrong, what that phrase means, and this is a question you always have to ask a materialist, what does that mean? Because more often than not, they're trading on our worldview. They are not giving an answer in light of their worldview, and you have to force them to do so. What does that mean? Here's what it means. I have been determined by the prior physical states and natural laws that determine everything that happens. And I have therefore been determined by those things to say that what happened on 9/11 was wrong. However, the terrorists have also been determined by prior physical states and natural laws to call those actions right. So each of us is following what nature has determined us to say or feel or believe about that, just as a point of information as those same forces are making me say these things to you right now, honey, to his daughter. And her final response, in light of intellectual honesty, is, well, Daddy, I guess then that I have been determined by the prior physical states and natural laws dictating the events in my life to say to you that none of your explanations make any sense at all in light of your own worldview, and I think you should abandon this foolishness about 9/11 demanding intellectual honesty, because none of your responses have been intellectually honest in light of your worldview.